Happy Wednesday, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse. I'm very excited to be here, and we got a very exciting, very special guest on stage. Mark, what's up, brother? Can you hear me?
I can. What's up, man? Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, definitely, sir. Definitely. Mark, look, man, the folks who have never heard of you, matter of fact, let me tell people about how I saw you. Okay. I think you and I became LinkedIn compadres, I don't know, sometime this year. And then recently I saw that you guys were going through a rebrand. And, I said, supply chain fitness. This is exactly what I feel like the community needs to hear about, learn about. And it was then I reached out to you, and you were gracious enough to accept my invitation to be here. So, I'm excited to have you on, brother. And for the folks who do not know about you, can you please give us a brief background of who you are and what supply chain fitness is?
Yeah. Again, thank you so much for having me. And like you mentioned, so my name's Mark. I'm the founder and CEO of Supply Chain Fitness. And to kind of give you a little background on how I got started with all of this is, now I know being in the industry, I don't have a history in trucking or supply chain. I'm actually a physical therapist by I'm trained physical therapist, but I don't have that experience like a lot of people in trucking where, you've got generations of trucking in your blood and it's just kind of something your family's been into for generations. And I just didn't have that experience. So I actually got started working with drivers, rehabbing them in a physical therapy clinic. And so I was just kind of seeing firsthand, what years and years behind the wheel can do to someone and the effects that it had. And, for a lot of the drivers I was working with and rehabbing, I was really seeing that their health was really one of the underlying factors of why they were in the clinic in the first place. And I don't know, have you ever been to physical therapy before?
I haven't, but that's not saying that I don't need to.
uh, when you go to physical therapy, it's not like you're going to your MD for a physical where they're in and out in 5 minutes. As a physical therapist, I actually got to know the patients. I got to learn about and I was just really inspired by a couple of the individuals that I was rehabbing, and then also hearing about their lifestyle. And honestly, outside of the clinic, doing a little research, I was just really shocked by some of the statistics that I saw and the research I saw on the health of an average driver. And you look at it, and you've got 85% of drivers who are overweight, one in every seven who are suffering from type 2 diabetes. And then the kicker, and the one that was like really shocking and like, hey, I need to do something about this, was that I saw that as a group, truck drivers have life expectancy 16 years less than the average population.
Woo!
And yeah, and I was just like, I really down in my soul, believe no one's career should define their health. And I just felt, with some of the things that I was seeing in the clinic and some of the stories I was hearing in the clinic, and then when you saw those statistics, I just really felt that that's unfortunately what was happening in trucking. And so, that along with doing some other research and really seeing, hey, I really think there's this pretty big gap here in driver specific exercise and nutrition advice and coaching. And I was like, I have a little bit of an entrepreneurial bug, and I was like, hey, I can fill this. And that's what made me start the trucking fitness company, which was our name before we switched over to supply chain fitness, and just really driver centric, focused on helping drivers exercise, eat healthier, and then giving them the accountability they need and coaching they need to do it anywhere at any time. And so, driver focused, we started working with really focused on, number one, like I said, building something for drivers and to fit into their lifestyle, but also starting to work with trucking companies, because as I got deeper in the industry, really started to realize that everyone wins if drivers are healthier. And there's a lot of costs and things that are affecting trucking companies when they're not helping their drivers and their fleets live a healthier life and live a higher quality life out there. And so we were we're really focused on working with trucking companies and getting I think it spreads our impact and our mission faster because we can work with groups of drivers versus trying to go after one driver at a time. But what we were seeing was from a cultural standpoint, a lot of the companies, when we were working with them, they were really pumped that we had something driver specific that met their fleet where they're at. But they didn't want to just grab a program and toss it to the drivers and just say, oh, this is for drivers only. They wanted something that was for everyone at their organization. And so we got that a couple of different times and we're like, hey, I think this is probably the right direction we need to move. And so we rebranded to Supply Chain Fitness. We really trying to create a full circle solution for a trucking or logistics company. And we've got programs for drivers, programs for office staff, for warehouse, and also for the shop and mechanics.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, look, man, we're very honored to have you here on stage. And, I'm going to go through each of those different offerings, those service offerings that you guys have. And just to throw it out there, I do own a dispatch company, Atlanta Dispatch LLC. So I'm going to be specifically or particularly interested in that office, situation that you guys have developed. And, just to go back on some of the things that you said, 85% overweight. We have diabetes. We have 16 years less than the average life expectancy than somebody, normally would be. And, that kind of goes into that's like in alignment with what the CDC is saying, or at least the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, is that drivers, disproportionately they're more obese. They are smoking more as a
Yep.
way of staying up. Lower physical activity, high blood pressure, and diabetes. You know what I mean? So like you guys do have some of those key concerns that even the CDC has diagnosed or at least identified as some of the the pillars as to why you're operating. And for that, I truly appreciate the service. I was raised by a trucker, and if I'm telling you right now, if I go give this man a hug, I don't know. I'm like, it's kind of weird. I press it. He doesn't feel normal. You know what I mean? He doesn't feel normal. And I think it's because of, 30 plus years of driving a truck and, living the lifestyle, eating the food that was available, not getting that exercise that he was needing. So, I'm happy to be able to highlight you and what you got going on now. So maybe, drivers who are, wherever they are, whether they've been experienced, they've been doing this for years on years, or they're brand new, they can kind of build in some healthier habits. So, if you did, let's just talk about the experience that you had as a physical therapist. You said that you were able to grow close to some of the folks that you were rehabbing. What were some of the things that you were seeing in the day to day? These drivers that were coming in.
You know what, the biggest thing that I was seeing, and I saw it from multiple drivers that I was rehabbing, was as a physical therapist, one of the questions I ask every patient is, hey, how often do you exercise, or what do you do for your health and fitness? And most people are like, I probably should be doing more than I'm not doing too much right now. I probably should be doing more. But the response that I got from the drivers was, it was much more of this mindset of, oh, I'm a trucker. We don't do that. And it was like,
Mm.
oh, yeah, it's part of the job description. We can't do that out. We've got way too much going on out on the road. We can't do that. Or, oh, we don't have access to, I can't get healthy food out on the road, or I can't get to the gym. What do you mean I can work out? And I was just seeing a really big mindset of, you know, I'm a driver and I can't do anything about it. And, I think that's one of the reasons why uh, for a lot of people that unfortunately it's gotten down to where it's at right now with the statistics. And so one of the biggest things that we're trying to do from a working with the individual drivers is having that mindset shift to saying, hey, yeah, there's a lot of things you can't control out on the road, but there are also a lot of things you can. And let's just put your energy towards, those things that you can control.
Correct. I do like that because, at the end of the day, although it might have seemed that the culture was not built around somebody being able to, exercise, it is a matter of you deciding what you're going to do. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's whatever you decide is important, and you do have that ability to build things into your schedule, even though, some of the things with even the industry as a whole, those tight shipping and receiving turnarounds, so always feeling like they're on the edge of their seat needing to get from shipper to receiver. I understand those things, especially as a dispatcher, but I do feel as though that's the most important thing that, one person can take from, whatever session that you guys had, was the fact that no, you do have ownership of your time, and you can do this. It's just a mindset shift of building this into whatever you got going on. So I'm happy that you were able to say that. So when you were talking to them, right, and you were getting them into the mindset of they can build this into their day to day, what type of physical activities were you suggesting that a driver do so that they can get some of that physical activity, that heart rate up?
Yeah, so I think the mantra that I always try to tell the drivers is that, and the companies we work with, is, hey, we're trying to do this. We're trying to set it up where your drivers can do this anywhere at any time. And so what we do is we've got different programs that the drivers from an exercise standpoint can do either in their truck, outside of their truck, or at home. And so we've got through an app right on their phone, they get a daily workout that has all video and written instructions on exactly what to do. We give them a resistance band, which I think is honestly the number one piece of exercise equipment any driver should get, because it's super lightweight and easy to store, and you can almost do any exercise with it, which is awesome. And so I think it's important to get some resistance in resistance training on the road, or if you go to the gym and do it. But we're really just focused on cutting down as many of the barriers as possible that drivers have that make it difficult to exercise, and let's just make it as easy for them as possible. So a workout, our most popular program's the In the Truck program, and that actually got started during when I first started the trucking fitness company. I had a beta group of about 20 drivers, and at first we only had programs for out of the truck exercise program. And one of the female drivers in our program was like, hey, I was on the phone. I got on the phone with each member every day because, like I said, I'm not a truck driver, and so I have the health and fitness piece, but I really needed I needed suggestions and ideas from the drivers who were doing it firsthand on how I could create this more and more for them. And one of the things that, her name's Blake, told me was, hey, I don't really like working out outside of my truck. I don't like other drivers staring at me while I'm out on the road. And she also said at some of the truck stops that she was, some of the truck stops that she was stopping at, she didn't feel safe enough to go outside for extended periods of time and work out. And so we developed the In the Truck program, and it's actually been our most popular thing. Most drivers that we work with are doing it in the back of their bunk. Obviously, if you have a day cab, you can't really get too good of a workout, maybe a couple stretches in there. But for the over the road drivers, or the drivers who are driving a truck with a bunk in the back, you can do a lot of exercises back there. And you're probably not running laps, but you do a circuit of a couple of exercises for 15 minutes, and all of a sudden you're sweating, and your heart rate's up.
Yes, sir. Resistance bands. That's the key, huh?
Yeah, man. I think it's the easiest thing to store, and plus, dude, if you got a 20 pound dumbbell, or you've got dumbbells back of your truck, if something you slam on the brakes or something crazy happens, you probably don't want a 20 pound object flying through the air. So from a safety perspective, I'd say stick with resistance bands as well.
You know what? That's a actually they're probably way more affordable than dumbbells as well. So awesome, awesome, man. All right, cool. So look, when we do have somebody that's in the truck, all right, they got the resistance bands. How quick are these circuits? I know you have an app and it's providing the actual exercises that somebody can do, but is it also keeping like a timing of how long they should be doing this versus going and transitioning to the next thing?
Yeah, so exactly. So it just, what they do is they open the app, they click the word, press start, and they put their phone down, and it says, all right, in the next minute, do X amount of reps of this exercise, and it's got the video right there, and then it'll, show them, hey, it's a rest period. Okay, here's the next exercise, do that, and then they just follow along. And typically, what we're trying to do, and one of the barriers that when I talk to a lot of drivers is, hey, I don't have enough, right? And so I found circuit training or exercises that are multiple exercises in a row, and you do that for a certain amount of time, at, as the best way to get the most bang for your buck, because you're doing some resistance training along with getting your heart rate up because you're just moving through a bunch of different exercises. And so typically our workouts are between 18 to 22 minutes, and then we also have some supplemental exercise programs where it's like, here's 5 minute exercise of the day that you can do, and we've got a lot of drivers who will do that in the morning, and then the 20-minute workout in the evening. And then we also have some options for if you want to do some stretching, or if you just want some accountability to go out and get a walk when you're stopped, or waiting for a load. We've got a couple of different options. And, I think that 15 to 20 minutes a day is a great starting spot.
Okay, I got you. I got you. And that was going to be one of my questions to see how long should somebody be trying to get something in physically every single day. And you're thinking that 15 to 22 minutes is a nice starting point. Is that ideal for them, or is that just to kind of get them in the flow of things?
You know what? I think I always say something is better than nothing. So if your starting spot is 5 minutes a day, that's better than doing nothing, because you got to think about the compound effect of all those times adding up over time, and it's going to do something for you. If you want to look at like the research and the science from the health and fitness side of things, there's something called the Physical Activity Guidelines for Americans, and what they recommend is 150 minutes of moderate cardiovascular training per week, and a couple of days of resistance training, full body resistance training. So if you break that down, what, 150? So that's between 20 and 30 minutes a day, right? Am I off there?
Oh
I
no,
don't
you're
do I
good.
don't do public math.
Yeah, no, you're good, man. I think you gave exactly what we were looking for. You mentioned something else, right? So, me personally, I'm on this thing, right? I'm going to the gym every day of the week, every day of the work week, just to make sure that I'm starting my day off strong. Getting up at 5 a.m., hitting the gym, and I'm doing more cardio these days than ever before in my life. So I'm on the treadmill, and when I get up to about my heart rate gets up to about 180, I think I'm doing something. I'm like, all right, cool. Let me, I'll cool it down from here, but I want it to be in this range at least for a little bit. Do you have any like target heart rates for the exercises that you think that a driver should be in when they're doing these things?
It depends. It depends on the driver, right? For talking about heart rate and those types of things, we're talking about that's a pretty advanced starting spot, right? I think what we're trying to do is just start with the ABCs, and just getting people, a lot of the people we work with, moving more. And as they progress, then yeah, we don't really do a ton of heart rate specific programming,
Hmm.
but there definitely are some target heart rates. 180 beats per minute. That's pushing it. That's pretty fast. That's that's working pretty hard. But you know, it's based off your goals and your starting spot. We all have different starting spots, and I think for a lot of the drivers, I'd say 99% of the drivers we work with, it's hey, I haven't exercised in the 15 years since I started driving. I just need to get moving more.
I hear you. All right. No, I respect that. I mean, it is sometimes it is more so about getting people started. And true. And then people don't have a heart rate monitor on
Yeah,
their truck. It's just I guess with me, I guess when I'm running, I might even start slower, but my whole goal is to go faster and faster and faster as I go along in my run. Just because you got to finish strong. You got to finish strong. So that's just a personal mental thing of mine. But no, I respect it. And for you, all right. So we're talking about the physical activity side of being in a truck. And I do want to come back to the physical activity side of, office and in a shop and in a DC too. But, what about the nutritional side? You said that's also something you were able to put a part of, add as a part of this package, when you're with your coaching, the things that you're actually able to advise these drivers on. What does that look like, especially given the state of truck stops not having the most healthiest options, or at least if they do have something healthy, they don't have many.
yeah. Well, and I think I guess before we jump to nutrition, Natasha had a question about stiffness, and she asked what she can do for stiffness all over and poor circulation, and
Right.
I'll answer that. Then we can jump over to the nutrition because I love talking about that as well. But Natasha, what I would suggest is number one, if you feel like you're having problems like feeling from a circulation or like your toes and fingers are feeling like cold, it doesn't feel like blood flow's going as well, first I'd talk to your doctor and make sure everything's good to go there. But from a stiffness standpoint, I moving more, getting blood flow. When you move and your muscles are pumping, what that's doing is that's pumping blood to that area because your muscles get energy and get the fuel it needs to pump from blood flow in there, and so that's why your body gets all hot and heated because things are moving really quickly when you start exercising because blood's getting flowing all over your body. So from a stiffness perspective, I think going out and walking and just moving more is a really good standpoint. You can find some stretches. I think if you have a certain body part or joint or area that is really stiff, if you just go on YouTube and look up some specific stretches for that area and just start small. It's I kind of think of it as some stretches, if they hurt, I'd probably stay away from it and find a different variation that feels a little bit better and feels like you're making progress. And you can start small at that. I look at stretches, I tell people all the time that it's kind of like a gas pedal, right? You can push all the way down and that might cause a little irritation because you're just pushing it too much, or you can just kind of ease into it. And so probably start at just kind of easing into it and see, do something, see how you feel the next day. And if you feel good, then do a little bit more of that and just keep moving in the right direction. But in general, for stiffness and just not feeling like just kind of feeling tight and everything, moving more always helps. So that's what I would suggest.
And look, before you transition to that other part, I thought that was great. I did want to ask that question about stretching. What is that? What does stretching do to someone's overall, physical health? Like, how do you feel like incorporating stretching regularly can improve somebody's situation?
Yeah, so I look at stretching. So there's been a lot of research recently on stretching and the benefits of stretching and everything like that. And I look at it as a one different type of it's just one thing in your toolbox, right? When you look at the physical activity guidelines and you're looking at weight loss the health of your heart, and all these different aspects of your health. Stretching doesn't really push the needle a ton on those areas. It's moving more, it's exercising, it's getting stronger, strengthening your muscles, and it's also eating healthier, right? But I think a lot of people, stretching feels really good. It can help decrease, aches and pains in certain areas. Spot because stretching's, not super aggressive. If you haven't done a lot of exercise in the last couple of years, maybe starting with stretching is a good spot, because you're not going to wake up the next day super be like, what the hell did I yesterday, and so I think stretching can be really good. It can be really helpful if you're lacking range of motion, through certain, you know certain joints, certain movement patterns, but also just doing exercises and different movements through those same movement patterns keeps the flexibility and also builds strength. I think sometimes stretching is a little bit more um, built up than I would give it in general. But I would say from a standpoint of, it's a good starting spot, and it can feel really good, and it also can be really relaxing as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Well, look, I appreciate you going in on that. I'm doing a lot of stretching these days, and I try to breathe through it, so it more becomes something that is relaxing.
Yeah.
And if I have any aches or things post workout or pre workout, that's why I really use that. But it is very relaxing to me. So yeah, stretching, guys. If that's where you need to start there. All right, but yeah, back to the question about the nutrition side of things. What's the nutritional plan looking like for a driver these days, and how they can incorporate that into an overall healthier lifestyle?
Yeah, so I think this is like drivers, but I think just our culture in general. When it comes to nutrition, I think there's just a lot of people who have this all or nothing mentality. And it's like, I'm going to cut out every dessert, every whatever it is. I'm going to restrict myself a ton, and I'm going to change everything at once. And I think when you take that approach, it feels like you're holding on for dear life, and you're just waiting for yourself to fall off. If it's a week, if it's 2 weeks, if you're lucky, and then you're back to kind of square one. And I just think it's kind of a losing recipe, and you're not setting yourself up for success. And so what I typically do, from a bird's eye view, is taking a habit based approach, and focusing on, let's make one or two small changes to your day to day routine from a diet standpoint, and let's just do it on a consistent basis and just make it a part of your routine. And when you do that, and you have that mindset of, you know, I don't, I care what you're doing 3 weeks from today, but I care a lot more that you're consistent with that habit 12 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from today, because that's where the needle gets pushed, and things start making progress versus, hey, having this huge flip for your diet for 1 week, then fall off for three, then try to do it again for a week, then fall off for three. And it's just like this roller coaster or yo-yo of, you're on, then you're off, you're on, then you're off, versus starting small, building up those small wins. And
Okay. I think the last thing I heard you say was starting small, building up those wins, and what?
oh man, did I fall off?
Yeah, just a bit. I thought it was my Wi-Fi, but if that's what I heard. You said starting small, building up those wins, and then what? Can you hear me, Mark? Hey, Mark, are you there,
Am I
brother?
here? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh
I can
my
hear you.
gosh, man. Sorry about that. I apologize.
There's no worries.
So I
It
was talking about
happens.
habits. I was talking
Right.
about habits and talking about, hey, starting small and just building up those small wins over time and just focusing on, hey, what can I start today that I can consistently do for the next, 6 months, 12 months, the rest of my life? Because your health is something that goes with you forever. And if you go on this huge diet that changes everything and you just hope for it to last for forever, and it's a complete 180 flip, a lot of the times it doesn't last longer than a week, right? And so I really just focused on building one small habit and then stacking habits on top of each other over time, and just really focusing on, hey, this is something that I want you to do on a consistent basis and just become a part of your regular routine.
Right. I agree. I agree. And the funny thing is, man, sometimes that is me. I have put these very, very, very lofty goals. And one recently being, I was like, man, I've been eating way too many carbs. I'm gonna cut them out. I'm gonna cut them out. And Lord and behold, I had a pancake today, but it was great. And I do feel like it's okay, setting those goals that are obtainable. Something that is just shifting what you're already doing for a healthier, version versus, everything is in moderation, I would say. And so I'm basically taking the information that you're taking and apply that you're saying and applying it to my real life right now. So I agree with that. Thank you so much for sharing. For those folks who are drivers, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, how have you been able to advise them on how to find healthy options, though? Is it something where the driver, if they're over the road, they should be meal prepping, like as their foundation, or like have you been able to find a way to guide them in their the choices they can make while out on the road if they have to pick something up?
Yeah, so what I typically tell the drivers is that we got to find your starting spot and then we got to make small adjustments for there. So the first thing that I tell drivers is, hey, I just want you to write down on a piece of paper or in the notes app on your phone and just write down, don't change anything, just write down a typical day of eating and drinking for you, right? Because there's a lot of people out there who are drinking calories as well. So I think that's something to keep in mind. There's a lot of drivers and just people in general who drink a lot of soda or drink Monster Energy drinks or really sugary coffees. And those add up more than people think as well. So what I typically say is let's write down what a typical day is, and then let's just oftentimes when you look back at what you eat on a full day, there are things that just pop out and you're like, oh, okay, this is a small change I could make that could cut out some calories and just make it, 10%, make my day of eating 10% healthier. And that's a good starting spot. So, for a driver, a lot of the times is, going back to that, let's focus on what you can control, not what you can't control. And so, a lot of the drivers we work with, McDonald's, they can't control. McDonald's might be the only place that they can eat at, and you could maybe argue they could control, stocking their truck up with options. But let's just say you can't control that McDonald's is the only place that you can eat at. So, but what they can control is what they choose off the menu. And so we give them restaurant guides to, give them, hey, here's the 6 healthiest options at any fast food restaurant. Or we've got a truck stop guide, and here's how you can build a healthy meal at a truck stop. And, if they do like meal prepping or cooking in their truck, we've got a bunch of recipes and we've got, grocery store lists that they can go stock their truck up with and cook throughout the week. But really it's just starting, finding your starting spot and then just making small adjustments from there. And, number one, you don't have to hate your life to live a healthy life. So you mentioned it earlier, everything in moderation. And also just, you can eat at these fast food restaurants. It's just making, maybe instead of a large fry and a large Coke, you go with medium fry or a small fry, and then maybe a 0 calorie beverage, right? And right there, you cut out, potentially 300, 400 calories from that one meal. And then when they stack up over time, all of a sudden, you're starting to lose some weight, and you didn't really feel like you did much.
Right, right, right. No, I love it, man. I definitely love that. That is prayerfully with the infrastructure bill being passed and monies being delved out, that along with that is going to be some emphasis on truck stops. I do know that that was also something that money was set aside for, but definitely being able to take into account that we need our drivers to be way healthier, and because it makes everything in supply chain move a lot smoother. So with that being said, there are other people that are supporting the supply chain. You got the folks that are in the office, especially like I said, having a dispatch company. I'm in my office like all the time. I enjoy it. I even had an opportunity to get a desk that kind of fits my operation. I like to stand, so I got a standing desk. Um,
Nice.
but what are some of those exercises that you might be able to mention that are specifically for people who have to be in an office environment at a desk at a cubicle for hours on end?
Yeah, well, I think in general, humans are humans, right? So, from a standpoint of improving your health, it's about moving more, exercising, and then eating healthier. And so, when it comes to a dispatcher or someone who's working in an office, finding ways throughout the day where you can get a workout in is awesome. But kind of what you just said there about what are some things that they can do at their desk, and what we do is we've built out actually some. We call it our daily desk mobility workout, where it's just a 5 minute, a couple stretches that they can do, seated or standing right by their desk. That works some of their hips, their low back, their upper back, their neck, and some of those areas that sometimes if you're sitting at the desk all day, get a little tight and sore. And so those would be some suggestions I have there. And then from a snack perspective and from a nutrition perspective, you know the worst thing you could probably do if you don't if snacking is a problem for you is keeping a bag of Doritos next to your desk, right? So have the food that you want to eat right there, by your desk, or maybe make a conscious decision that you're just not going to eat in front of the computer. I know that's not possible. I'm a victim of that. I eat in front of my computer and watch YouTube. That's what I do at lunch and for breakfast as well, right? But what I don't do is I don't just have a huge stack of snacks in reaching distance from my computer, because that would just be bad news for me if I did that, because I just mindlessly eat all day. And the same thing if a driver keeps it in the bag of Doritos in the passenger seat. So what I would do is keep food in the kitchen, or keep food outside of the room where your computer's at. Have your meals planned throughout the day, and if you need to plan a snack in the morning, a snack and then a snack in the afternoon, have that planned. But if you don't, if it's not one of those planned meals or snacks, then just don't eat. Or
Hmm.
just drink some water, drink some other 0 calorie beverages, and you know, just really try. I call that grazing. A cow grazes all day on grass in the field, but there's a lot of people who just have food next to them, and they're just grazing all day because their minds on their work, and they just want to keep their hands and mouth occupied, and they just want to start eating and eating and eating, or keep eating. And that's a problem for a lot of people, and a lot of drivers as well, because they use it to stay up and keep themselves up. But that would be my suggestion for someone who's a dispatcher or an office works in an office.
Okay, well, I do appreciate that information. I think I've learned a little bit more about my body in my adult years, being as how I might eat something And I maybe back in the day I would try to have a snack maybe an hour and a half later after I had a big meal. But now I understand my body doesn't do well for that. You know, the food that's already digesting then has to kind of start over. So now I'm feeling a bit of indigestion, and I think that even led to a little bit of weight gaining. You know what I mean? So nowadays I am very, very specific about when I do eat. You know, if I'm going to have something at breakfast, well, I probably won't have a snack. You know, that's just not my life. My wife, my wife might have a snack. You know, she operates completely different than I do. But I guess it is about understanding yourself, your body, and how you feel afterwards. If you feel great, you know, after having, you know, while grazing, well, you know, have at it. But yeah, that was just my personal experience, just to add a little bit of, you know, a little bit of seasoning to the conversation. Um, so at this point, you know, you've added the DC too, and you've added shops. You know, people who are in those mechanic shops working on the trucks. How did you come up with those type of programs to also support those folks?
Yeah, so what I was a lot of those and I will say DC and the shop program are very similar. From a day to day standpoint, they're they move different. Obviously they have different jobs, but from the a lot of moving throughout the shop or moving throughout the warehouse, and what we have for that program is we have a pre-shift warm-up that they can do just to get some blood flowing and warm up to hopefully decrease the likelihood of an injury happening during their shift. And then it's also just helping them pack healthy meals for the day, so they keep it in the break room, and have a healthy lunch and have healthy snacks throughout the day. Help them exercise at home or at the gym if they want to, and just really focusing on, still similar to the office staff and the drivers, of just building those healthy habits. And the big thing is, for anyone we work with, is they're all human. They all every one of them works the same in the fact of they need to move more and they need to eat healthier. But the difference there is um, some of the constraints that they live, because drivers potentially over the road are not home every night, or they don't have access to the same food options, or going to the grocery store and preparing meals and keeping it in the fridge at home and then just bringing one meal a day. Some do, some don't, obviously. But for the office staff in the warehouse and the mechanics, they have access to that. They're home every night. If they want to go to the gym, they can go to the gym. A lot of that is just giving them the accountability, giving them the accountability and coaching, and having someone who's holding them accountable to their goals, and giving them things that they can do at home, and giving them ideas for snacks they can bring to the office, or meals that they can prepare at home for lunches or for breakfast or for dinner, and just really giving them access to that coaching, and helping everyone at the organization speak in the same language of, hey, we're trying to live a healthier life.
Right. It does start, you know, from the top. It starts from the top. And if you are fortunate enough to have, you know, people who have influence at the job, also very vocal about living a healthier lifestyle, I do think it kind of penetrates more to the, you know, the folks that report up to those folks. So, you know, I just want to say I appreciate you for coming on, and to, you know, I wish you best of luck in the way that you have transitioned from, you know, being something that was specifically and very singularly focused on the driver to now, you know, incorporating the entire supply chain. You know, but before I go, before we transition out, is there anything that you have going on that we were not able to talk about that you might want to mention?
Talked about a lot of good stuff. I don't have anything too crazy going on outside of just really trying to, find trucking companies and companies within the supply chain who are wanting to, meet their employees where they're at and help them live a healthier life.
Right, right, right. Okay, well, cool, man. Well, look, tell the folks where they can find you on your social medias, maybe even, if there is a 3PL company, a trucking company that's listening, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, so you can look up supply chain fitness on any social media other than Clubhouse. I This is my first time on Clubhouse. I'm kind of liking it. I gotta get used to it a little bit more. But on any other social media, you can look up supply chain fitness, and then I'm big on LinkedIn, and I'm trying to get better at Twitter at Dr. Mark Manera.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Well, look, man, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hey, well, were there any questions from anybody in the audience? If so, please raise your hand. If not, we are going to transition to. All right, leave that open for 30 seconds. But look, thank you again, brother. On Monday, everybody, tune in Monday morning at 7:30 as we partner with Freight Waves, Sonar team to talk about where you should be positioning your trucks so that you can take advantage of the market. And next week, actually, I'll save next week's discussion. But Dr. Mark Manera, I appreciate you, brother, and God bless you. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, sir. Have a blessing.